Good afternoon. I'm Jessica Inman, and you're watching a special edition of Orlando Sentinel's Politics Now. Today we are talking to the candidates running for Maitland City Council Seat 1. Today we are talking to Mike Thomas and Michael Dabby. Let's learn more about the candidates. We'll start with Michael Dabby.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for having both of us here. This is a very important race in Maitland. The future of Maitland is part of what our projection is to go forward into this community. I've been in the community for over 32 years. I've been on Planning and Zoning, Transportation Advisory Board, and numerous other boards in the community. I've been Volunteer of the Year, and I've been endorsed by the Realtor Political Action Committee. I'm a real estate appraiser and commercial broker, and I am familiar with land development and land development codes. I look forward to the opportunity to meet with the community at every opportunity and to work with Mike Thomas and other residents in the community.
Thank you. And next we have Mike Thomas.
Mike Thomas. I moved to Maitland in 2001 from College Park because we wanted a family environment and great schools, and we got both of those. And I quickly became immersed in our community as a soccer coach, school volunteer, Indian Princess Tribe, just about everything you can imagine. And now I've served on the Lakes Advisory Board and Planning and Zoning with Mike. My background is as a government watchdog, actually with the Sentinel for almost 30 years. And that's got me inside local governments from Melbourne to Cocoa to Kissimmee to Orlando, Orange County. And so I really understand all the issues confronting Central Florida and Maitland. I have a good depth of knowledge. I was a good, strong advocate for environmental protection, growth management, and those issues that face us every day. And based on that, I saw an opportunity to run for City Council in Maitland, and I've taken advantage of that and believe I have a good skill set to serve the city.
Okay. And so for our first question, I wanted to ask you each how you would have voted on the Maitland Concourse North development. And we'll start with Michael Dabby.
Well, both of us were part of Planning and Zoning in that matter. If the question is how we did vote in the Planning and Zoning recommendation, I voted against it because I thought there were a lot of issues that were still yet to be answered. In regard to how City Council voted, I'm still not sure of all the ramifications and details of that vote. The minutes of that have yet to be transcribed, and I'm not sure that anybody really knows what the outcome there is.
Okay. And Mike Thomas?
Well, I voted, when it came to the Planning and Zoning Board, I voted against it because of the damage to the wetlands. But actually, almost the decision to put that project in there was made back in 2013 when the Planning and Zoning Board back then and the City Council approved the density for the project. And once you do that, it's hard to take it back. So the project pretty much came through with every apartment and every square foot of commercial and retail that was approved back in 2013. Mike was involved in that vote, I wasn't, so if I was, I can't tell you, it was a unanimous vote, so obviously somebody made a strong case for that sort of density. As far as the project is now, it's been approved, and I think the residents have to pay close attention to the site development plan and make sure that their concerns are met. And one thing I will say is if it wasn't for the residents out there, we'd probably have a super Walmart or a Costco. So their actions there were huge in making that a better project.
And what are your thoughts on the Maitland City Center across from City Hall? Mike, we'll start with you, Mike Thomas.
I voted for that project for I don't know how many years. That abandoned Winn-Dixie building was sort of the city mascot of Maitland. And we had to move forward there, and that piece of property was critical to jump starting the downtown development. It is pretty dense there, the number of units, but there is an opportunity to do something with the new retail and restaurant projects that will be developed there and facing away from 1792 and hopefully creating a little urban meeting center, a little core that from there we can develop the rest of downtown around that.
Okay. And Michael Dabby, what about you?
I agree. It was necessary to have that project to jumpstart the downtown. We're working towards a walkable community in which there are things to do, such as restaurants, entertainment venues, opportunities to spend time with our fellow residents and enjoy our downtown. It's also an economic boom to the community. The commercial part of that is faced inward, so it's not facing 1792, and that was a very important part of making it walkable and making it so that there's opportunities to extend Independence Lane, which is going forward, and hopefully have an extension of Independence Lane from the Sunrail station all the way down to Lake Lily, so that we have about 3/4 of a mile or so of walkable, bikeable connectivity between the economic generators in our community.
And that kind of leads me into my next question, which was how you each felt about Independence Lane now turning into Festival Street. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I would like to see some much more economic analysis done as to what the costs of Independence Lane are going to be. However, I think it's very important that we have that opportunity to extend Independence Lane. If you're referring to the physical improvements on Independence Lane, that is the concern that we all have as to what the economics of that are. How much more money are we going to spend on something that may or may not be used as often as we'd like it to be? But it is very important that it is something that is a walkable, bikeable environment where we can all enjoy.
Okay. And Mike?
Yes, they've already approved. They're put in some nice pavers and street decorations, and that's on the way. And the logic is that if you're creating this kind of investment, then you go the extra investment to make it something that will attract people for the next 20 years. The problem I have with that is funding it out of general revenues, and where they should fund it is out of the downtown development taxing district, and right now that district is sucking money out of general revenues, and the idea is that this money is going to be repaid at some point. Well, I think the money they had put into Festival Street should go into that tab that has to be paid back to the neighborhoods and the rest of the city.
Okay, and my last question for you both is just how would you each like to manage development in Maitland going forward? And we'll start with you, Mike.
Well, we've made a lot of land use changes that we're having to now live with. And one of the problems that we do in the city is we change land use before we know what the developer has in mind, what he's going to do on the property. And we saw that with Maitland Concourse North. I would like to see developers come forward with basic site plans to show us their intentions before we change the land use. And I think developers would like that, because I've had a developer tell me, we don't know what Maitland wants because Maitland doesn't know what Maitland wants, and they're afraid of certainty in the process, that if they comply with our codes and land use, and then they still might get rejected. And so we have to work closer with the development community and agree on projects early on, and on the scope of projects and on the layout of projects. And I think that would do a lot towards smoothing the process down the road, and it would do a lot towards giving developers certainty so that they'll want to come and invest in Maitland.
Thank you. And Michael?
I think downtown development and development in general is very important to our economic well-being as well as to the community at large. The community has spoken in many cases. What our issues is are we or are we not going to adhere to the codes that we already have? It's important that if we don't adhere to them, we understand why we don't want to, and then go back and change our land development codes and perhaps even our comp plan to accommodate what the wishes are of the general community, and the general community being not only the residents but the stakeholders, including the developers.
Okay. And so I'll let you each kind of conclude with your own final words. Anything you both want to add?
This race has taken me completely out of my comfort zone. I'm not a political person, and we have enough things and enough stress in our family life that adding this to it, was a challenge. But my wife is very supportive, and so we moved ahead. And the reason I'm doing this is because I think Maitland needs a fresh perspective. I think it needs new insight. And I come with such a strong background in knowing how local government works, and actually serving as Chief of Public Policy for Orange County. And so this is my one and only time that I'm going to venture out on a risk like this, and it's strictly to make Maitland a better community and city. So I appreciate your support.
As I said earlier, I'm a 32-year resident. I've been involved in the various boards in the community. I've been president of my condo association. I'm also a real estate practitioner, so I see things from both sides of the aisle. I see it from the resident perspective, and I see it from the regulatory perspective. And from my professional perspective, I see it also from the developer's perspective. I have the experience with the knowledge of what it takes for development to be successful. I'm familiar with the financial aspects of it. I too want to see development, but I don't want to see any development come in for just any reason and approved. I want it to be something that is consistent with the values and needs of the community. Based on my experience and based on my knowledge, I feel that I've got, respectfully, a distinct advantage in what my abilities are and able to move Maitland forward into the future. Thank you for having us both here.
Yes, and thank you both so much for joining us. And for more news on this race and all the others, please visit orlandosentinel.com. Thank you.